Um, so the last couple of streams, we've been spinning and plying these two bobbins full of alpaca. And it's just been some alpaca roving that I was just sort of mindlessly getting through. And then we've got a little bit more to ply still. Got these, or well, this ball, which is about half the ply ball I had remaining. And I think I should be able to fit it all on one bobbin. And then once we finish that, we're gonna clear off at least one of the bobbins and then get started spinning something else if I'm able to. Sorry, there's some very loud music outside. Anyway, other things to note, we got some bread dough rising at the moment. I actually just finished with a couple of stretch and folds, so it's probably, yeah. I don't know how much it's gonna rise while we're sitting here. I used some sleepy starter rather than some active starter, which does tend to make it rise slower, but yeah, I don't know. We will see. I also used some warm water to combat it. But yeah, maybe it'll rise enough to be noticeable. Let's see. All right, spinning this way. It's been a while since I have spun. I have not spun anything since my last stream. Which is what, like 8 days ago, something like that. Been a pretty busy and tiring week. But yeah, I'm glad to be back at it. Chuck is glad I'm back at it, I'm sure. Hello, Chuck. I see her up there. I have to pick her up and she's still coming. And this is a little later than I usually do stream. They got away from me. Like I woke up at 5 a.m. like I always do, and then I blinked, and now it's quite a bit later than that. Kind of hate when that happens. Although at least I cashed out all my PTO and I'm taking the next week off, so it doesn't really matter that much if I lose a day. I think I slept the rest of it, to be honest. Slept off some bad medication reactions. I am feeling quite a bit better now, which is good. If anyone has any questions, always feel free to pop them in the chat. But if not, I will just ramble as I usually do. I just realized I forgot to oil my wheel. It's like such a small thing, because like it doesn't, I feel like it doesn't do that much. It's not going to turn a impossible to spin wheel into a well spinning wheel, but it does turn a well spinning wheel into a slightly worse spinning wheel. So worth doing, I feel like, whenever I remember to. So my new computer seems to have a much better like graphics, as far as I can tell, in the webcam, and also a way wider field of view, so I can actually show like the entire spinning wheel and the flyer and my hands, which is awesome. I'm very pleased with that. connection to the internet leaves something to be desired. I hope it's not like super choppy. If anyone wants to let me know in chat if it's like crazy choppy or if you're having troubles hearing me, let me know. Hopefully not. We'll see. If it ends up being a totally silent stream, I apologize. Although at a certain point, that would be on you guys for not letting me know. Either way. I know a lot of people like get some calmness out of the sound, and others get it out of the visual, and others like out of the combination of the two. So if nothing else, at least the people who like the visuals would say. I'm probably gonna hold up on discussing our spinning options for once I'm done with this until maybe a couple more people have joined and we've got a bit of a conversation going. Just because otherwise I think I'll say it like way too many times over and over again. So we'll hold that as a secret until a little bit later. You know, funnily enough, I can't actually see through the condensation on my like Tupperware for my bread in real life, but if I look over at the camera, I can see just fine. So I'm kind of watching my bread like rise through the webcam. Apologies for any background appliance noises. I always I notice how late it is, and I'm like, oh, there's nothing to do. Let me go put in a load in the dishwasher and a load of laundry. Those very loud things. Let me get some bread going so that I start slightly late. Yeah, every time. No matter though. I'm like 98% sure that I'll have enough room, but I'm not positive on this bobbin. I would be really annoyed if I had to like empty or switch bobbins to fit the last of it. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But I keep looking down at the ply ball and it's like not really going up or going down rather. The bobbin's going up. The fly ball is not going down. We'll see. Oh, hey, Zetra. Good to see you again. Let me know if there's any issues with the sound quality. I haven't yet gotten any feedback on that. So I'm a little worried. Hopefully it's all good. But nice to see you at another stream. Glad you could make it. We're almost done spinning up this alpaca. We're almost done spinning up this alpaca. I haven't touched it since the last stream. So I did consider it. I was like, I could just quickly finish plying what little is left and then just make a post on Tumblr showing people everything. But yeah, then I felt bad, so I didn't. You're not sure you'll stay as late this time. Yeah, that's probably for the best. Now that I know your time zone is very different. That was probably for the best, my friend. But no worries. Just stay as long as you feel like, and that will be awesome. Also, since you haven't seen yet, I got a bit of bread dough rising. I have no idea if it will rise enough to notice during the stream, but I'm excited. I'm keeping an eye on it. You still want to know what I put in the ball? Yeah. Well, I think we'll get there because there's not that much left. So I'm sure this time we will find out. I've like half forgotten myself. I'm pretty sure I know what it is. We'll see. Yeah, we're definitely gonna get there before too long. I think I have like as much object permanence as my hand. So bad at judging how big something was compared to 5 seconds ago. I feel like I should be a little better at that. Hold on. And I think it'll even all fit on the bottom, which is really good. Because I'm lazy, I don't want to change them again. So I've got two other options as to what I can span once we finish this up. I'm still totally undecided on it. I'll probably end up asking chat and see what people are more interested in spinning or in seeing spun. But one of them is more colorful and it's a totally new project, and the other one is brown again. But it would be finishing up an older project, which is slightly more gratifying to me. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. The sound is globally okay, but you hear me less when I turn my head. That makes sense. Give me a sec. I'm gonna orient myself towards the laptop a little bit more then. Hopefully that'll help. Thanks for letting me know, by the way. I appreciate that. That. I don't think I can mitigate that the sound will get like quieter when I move my head, but I can at least make it so that I'm moving my head less often, if ever. So there we go. All right, hopefully this is better. Let me know if it's not, but I don't know why it wouldn't be. There we go. I've had like such a long week. It was so long that it feels like both 1 million years have passed since I was last sitting here spinning and streaming, and also like no time has passed at all, which is a little odd of a feeling. It's nice to be back though. I did miss spinning. I was just not. I didn't have the time. I kept taking coworkers' shifts, and then like wasn't getting home until 2 or 3 hours later than I usually do. So yeah, just did not have the time at all. This week though, I'm hoping to do like a couple of streams maybe. We'll see. like potentially during the day if I get really ambitious. Hopefully like at all different time zones. Or at many different times to suit all different time zones. Because friends who keep bugging me about the fact that it's like 4 a.m. for them right now, but they want to, be part of the stream. So frustrating when there's too much stuff to spin or too much life stuff to spin. Yeah, I agree. Like, what do you mean I have to like have a job and do my dishes and stuff and like commute to work every day? Like, why? I didn't sign up for that. I feel like if I would have signed up for anything as a kid or like as an infant, it would have been like signing up as the guy who lives near a creek and makes models of rocks or something. I would not have signed up for this. To be fair, you have a terrible sleep schedule. Like, don't change the time on your account. Oh, no worries. It's like a peer pressure situation at this point. It's not just you. Although if I do end up doing it at a time that is better for your sleep schedule, then that would also be a win as well. But there are several people telling me to stream at different times. So. Oh, I'm sad what I was doing. My old computer, like my old laptop, has been so, like, it's such a cheap computer. It's like not even a Chromebook. It's a knockoff Chromebook, and it had 5 gigs of space. So I was never able to download a single thing. So I haven't played any computer games in several years now, actually. I'm catching up. Yeah, no worries, Etra. It's not just for you. I'm a little worried I'm like under twisting this section. Like, it's been long enough since I applied the other stuff. I actually don't really remember how much I am visually checking that it's already started to relax. So the twist isn't really evidence. I don't know. Do I play anything? Yeah, not. I don't stream anything other than this. But my game of choice is Minecraft. It's been Minecraft since I was a kid. And I've been playing it on my phone for a while, but my hands are not great, so it's kind of sucked. And also, it's a different version on the phone versus on the computer, and I really like doing like technical stuff, and it's a lot harder on the phone than it is on the computer edition. Like, it's just harder to make machines. But I wasn't playing that because I can't figure that out at the moment on my computer. I was playing Papers, Please, which is a game on Steam, which is it's kind of depressing, but like very introspective as a person in a, half capitalist, half fascist regime. Definitely learning a lot about myself. and about choices I want to make, which is probably the entire intent of the game, but I only just picked up on that now. And I started playing that game when it first came out, which was like 2014. Didn't even know you could play that on a phone. Yeah, it's it plays pretty well on the phone, honestly. Like if I didn't have the physical limitations that I do, and if I wasn't so big into Redstone, I bet I wouldn't have a problem. But I'm like, I can barely control my character a lot of the time. Stone, I bet I wouldn't have a problem. But I'm like, I can barely control my character a lot of the time because my fingers kind of twitch a bit too much. So you love a heartbreaking choices game. Never played Papers, Please, but you've heard good stuff on it. Honestly, recommend if you have access to playing it. It is very much a heartbreaking choices game. Like, I don't know. I did 2 different runs today, and in one of them, in the first one, I was like, because the premise of the game is that you're a basically the guy who lets people in from one area into a new country, and so you're like checking their passports and their papers and stuff. And so on my first run, I was just like, you know, my family will be fine, I'm sure, no problem. Sorry, that's my dryer. When I say that jingle overstays its welcome, I really mean it. Anyway, so I was making the nice choices, I guess, or the compassionate choices, like people who were lacking their passports, but trying to like join their husband in the country or something like that. I was letting them through it. But you don't get paid when you do that, so you lose out on money. And then my whole family got sick, and like 3 family members died. So on my second run, I was like, okay, just gonna try and stay alive this time. And instead, what I found is I just like could not live with the choices I was making. Really miserable. And like, there's not really a line. There's not enough room for there to be a line between your family starving and, you know, the small acts of rebellion against the state, which is something I can relate to as unfortunately, a U.S. citizen. Yeah, it's a little bleak, but it is. I mean, you know, bleak games can have a lot to offer. And then this one definitely makes you think a lot. It is a good, like, it's a good game, though. It's really held up. I wasn't sure if it would because it came out quite a while ago, but definitely holds up. The vibe of the game must have changed since 2014. It definitely has to me. Like, I mean, I know when I was playing it as a 14-year-old, I can't have, or in 2014 as a teenager, not a 14-year-old necessarily, but as a teenager, like some of it went over my head. A lot of it went over my head, I think. And also, you know, when you're a teenager and not in control of your own finances, the looming threat of homelessness is not necessarily quite as intense as when you're in your 20s and 80% of your salary or 80% of your paycheck goes to rent. It is. I feel like some of the best games are like that, though. Like they're almost like practice runs for shit in real life, like when shit is about to hit the fan in real life. So I do appreciate it for that. It's also got some pretty good music. But there's bits in it that at the time when it first came out, when I was playing it, I was like grossed out by and didn't care enough about the in-game consequences to not do. Like I would just be like, oh, I'm not doing that shit. That's insane. Such as when you notice a gender marker on somebody's passport is different, and you have to interrogate them, or else you're gonna get fired, and then your whole family dies. And it's so it's just sitting there like interrogating these video game trans people, being like, what the fuck am I doing? This is horrible. This is something I don't want to do in real life, for sure. And something I have successfully avoided doing in real life, at least so far. Yeah, it's all, I don't know, it's all a lot less theoretical these days, but so is everything. I don't know. I honestly didn't mean to bring the doom and gloom of global politics into play here, because I don't want to think about it either, if I'm being honest. How about the fact that it looks like my bread is rising already? Maybe I'm just being hopeful. How about the fact that it looks like my bread is rising already? Maybe I'm just being hopeful. But it definitely looks a little bit bigger, excitingly. Such an uneven bobbin. Oh well. I'm always like, the next bobbin, like this bobbin sucks, but the next bobbin, I'm gonna keep it real nice and neat. And then that does not happen ever at any point. Bread, yeah. Hello, welcome in. Nice to have you in chat. I just finished putting together the bread right before. So, this is its first rise. I'll probably end up going in the fridge once I'm done, because there's no way I'm staying up late enough to actually like finish the first rise. Way too sleepy. Guess what? We're almost there. That's very little left. Not that I can show what it started like to begin with, but it basically filled like my whole hand. It was a pretty big ball. So we're almost there. And it may or may not fit on the bobbin. We'll see. Hopefully it fits on the bobbin. There's a little bit of space on one of the other bobbins that I can move it to if I have to. Prefer not to. We'll see. But the good thing is, it took me so little time to actually like finish plying this. Like, you know, it'll be about half an hour, I guess, by the time I'm done. That I definitely still have some more spinning in me. So we're gonna have to decide on a new thing to spin. So the two current options. It melted. It did melt. Melted straight onto the bobbin. See, the two current options are very colorful, naturally dyed Shetland and Clun Forest cross that I've been carding into Rolex over the last little while. Now, the downside of that is that I only have one color fully carded. Like, I've just been sort of carding whatever color I felt like at whatever time. So I only have the sort of violet color dyed at the moment. So that'd be pretty short. The other option is I've been really slowly spinning this CVM bat that I bought at a fiber festival a very reasonable number of years ago. Don't even worry about how long ago it was. It was so recent. It's not been sitting in my stash for ages at all. And I've spun, like I turned half of that into roll lags, and I've been spinning it up on drop or unsupported spindles. And then there's still like about half left, and I was thinking that I could just spin directly onto the wheel. The downside of that is it's really messy, and I don't really feel like sweeping. But also, it's just more brown, so it's not exactly going to be like the most engaging to watch. Whereas I kind of feel like the purple might be a little bit more engaging. I don't know. Let me know. I don't know. Let me know once we get there, which we're gonna have to wind off, like skein up some of this stuff just so we have a free bobbin. So it's gonna be at least another 20 minutes before we're there. But let me know your preferences on what you want to see. There's only a little bit of the purple or the violet. So if we do end up going for that, we'll almost certainly finish it up tonight. But there's a fair amount of the CVM left. And there's some that needs to be finished spun on the supported spindles. So that we wouldn't get to all of that tonight. What kind of purple are we talking? Well, so it's a natural purple. So not a super vivid one. Let me see if I can find. I brought over my bag of Rolex, but the purple is all the way at the bottom, so I have to dig through it. Hang on. Okay. I hope that doesn't just look like more brown, because that would be really sad if so. It's like, I don't know, sort of a soft, like lilac color in real life. Probably less than I was hoping. I don't know. None of the colors look great in this light. Like this is the green, and it just looks like brown. So I'm almost wondering if maybe I should save that for daylight and or a stream in which I have my other light on so you can see the colors a little clearer. Kind of leaning that way. How do you naturally dye in purple? You're interested. There's a lot of ways to do it. Because anytime you get red or blue, you can turn that into purple. So there's that. But in this particular case, if I remember correctly, it's Oregon grape berries, which makes sort of a I don't know, sort of like a reddish, maybe like a dark purpley red, and then I mixed it with I mixed a little bit of it with some acid, like as a post-mordant, and then the majority of it I mixed with baking soda or bicarb, depending where you're from, to get a green. And if it wasn't the Oregon grape berries, then I think it was buckthorn berries. It was definitely one of the two, and I don't remember which. They seem like subtler colors. Cotton candy color. Yeah, I think. Oh, I knew that was going to happen. Sorry, I just tangled everything on the bottom. I think it's probably the best idea to wait till daylight too. I hadn't really checked how they look under the webcam until now, but not great with this lighting. You think there's also some lichens that dye purple. That is true. There are. Although my personal issue with lichen dyeing is that it is not like color fast or even time fast, it feels like. I know time fast isn't a word, but like it feels like it just fades over time even without exposure to light, which sucks. Like I can keep stuff in the dark. I don't necessarily go outside every day, but I can't exactly keep time from entering my dye. So I don't know. All right, crisis averted. I think I should probably switch to a different spot though. Should not require as much brain as it is, but it is. So, okay. I will say that, I mean, it depends. Oh, fuck. Sorry, I just did it again because I forgot to tension. Okay. It depends on the lichen, and it depends on how you mordant it, and like what kind of, like if it is in direct sun, that definitely speeds it up. I definitely wouldn't write off lichen dyes, like 100%. If you have lichen and the ability and desire to dye with it, give it a shot. But I don't usually want to mess around with re-dyeing stuff unless it's a really easy to gather dye material. Like, you know, blackberry, for example, I don't care if I have to read here. But like when it comes to lichen, you know, that's sort of, you have to find it fallen somewhere for it to really be ethically collected. And you certainly cannot rely on that year after year. So, and that's also just my experiments with wool. It might be a little better with other, like with silk or something, it might be better. I don't know. Still worth doing, but good considering to think about when deciding what to dye lichenly. Yeah, indeed, yeah. Like if you're making a something that's going to end up with a ton of random skeins in it, you don't want a couple of them to be lichen dyes, ideally, right? Dyed. Probably not a huge issue. Okay. Now do I get to spin? Yes. Okay. Pretend that never happened. You know, I did what, 3 streams? 3 little streams where I didn't do this at all. And then on the last one with the last like tiny handful of yarn is when I do it, of course. I'm gonna close my hand now because it's starting to peek through. But the reveal of what's at the center should come soon. Although I do think Zetcher might have just gone to bed, so they're gonna miss it if so. All right. Noodles here for any of the other flying streams, but at the beginning of the first one, I introduced a little, really not puzzle, more like betting game about what I used to put in the middle when I was rolling up the ply ball. Because I usually use a stone, and this time there were no stones within distance. And nobody correctly guessed it's a sheep bone. Wonder if I can get it actually to focus. Yeah. I don't know what part of the bone that this is. Judging by the anatomy of it, it looks like sort of a joint, like an area where a longer bone fits into a joint. But I don't remember. My vet friend, told me what type of bone or what area of bone it was, and then I immediately forgot. So, bone, yeah, not vertebra. If it were vertebra, it would have a little bit more sticky outfit, but bone of some kind. Yeah, it made a semi-obliging. I don't know, ply ball winder. Wasn't too bad. I like them to be a little bit heavier usually. But. So that concludes the alpaca spinning. Now just the alpaca winding. Let's see. I did for once. Cat, yes. I moved Chuck's stuff closer to see if I could like trick her into being in frame more often. It seems to have worked. Do I have it to play knuckle bones? No, although that is why I went into the sheep bone section of the farm when I was there, so that I could buy toe bones or knuckle bones, specifically to play knuckle bones. I didn't have them, so instead I just got like a couple various bones. Although I'm pretty sure, so my friend went to the same farm again this year. I couldn't make it because there's just be no way to get my power chair out there anymore. But apparently they picked me up a couple of toe bones, so I am excited this time. That actually playing knuckle bones might be in my future. That'd be so fun. I have various etching materials too. Like I'm ready for knuckle bones. I just lack the knuckles. Cat, yes. Oh. Okay, put that there. All right, just sort of moving things around so that I can wind off at least one. I don't know if I want to bother with more than one because I know it's not exactly riveting to watch, and also it's I don't find it to be really easy to deal with huge hanks of yarn, so I might do like one hank per bobbin. We'll see, but I need to do at least one so we can keep spinning. Keep it in frame. You do got to get a nitty naughty if you do any spinning at all. It's so much more convenient. And you know what the incredible thing about this is? Like the best thing about this is that when I'm done, all I have to do is count the strands of yarn, multiply by 2, know my exact yardage. That's it. Like, yeah, very helpful. And if you get like a 1 yard or a 1 meter, depending on your measurement system, nitty naughty, then you don't have to do any at all, like no math, just number of strands equals number of yards / meters. I love nitty naughties. They're also just like sort of a fun movement. Ideally, I would have my spinning wheel on the other side of the room so that the twist would be like getting evenly distributed along all the outstretched yarn, but then I would have to move the spinning wheel and then come back and bring it back over, and I don't really want to get up, so we're not going to do that. You love simple, clever instruments. Oh, me too. I feel like that's why I love spindles so much. You know, a good, simple spindle stick that literally is just a smooth, pointed stick. You can't beat it. And you can spin such incredible yarn on it. And like, it's such a simple tool that could easily have been made in the Stone Ages if they were thinking about such things at the time. Right now you use picking a 1 yard long path on an inkle loom as a niddy noddy, but it's kind of a hassle. That does sound like effective in terms of measurement, but then also very, very much a hassle in terms of actual winding, yeah. Yeah. I mean, and they're so cheap too, like they're such a good investment. Truly recommend. You love drop spindles and seeing archaeological samples of spindle whorls too. Same. Every time I see like a stone or a bone spindle whorl that's like, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of years old. Like, wow, I have the same nerdy ass interests as a really old dead person. For some reason that makes me emotional. I don't know why. And I mean, like, I know they weren't necessarily spinning as an interest, necessarily, but I feel like you can kind of compare like attitudes, modern attitudes towards cooking as maybe similar to ancient attitudes about spinning. Like everybody's got to do it, you know, unless you're rich enough to afford to get it pre-done. And not everybody enjoys it, but everybody likes having clothes, and everyone has opinions on it. And there's got to be, just like how in the modern world, there are many, many people who super love cooking. There's got to be like people from back in the day who really loved spinning and talking about spinning and thinking about spinning. There's got to be. And those would have been my people. Stylized spindle whorls, not usually intended for actual spinning, but like the art object, are a traditional form for local native art carving, and it makes me happy. That is so cool. That's awesome. Do they like, so like, is there also a tradition in that area of artistic functional spindles, or is it more of a pivoting away from the functional aspect to a mini aspect out of curiosity? Also just so hardwired in to feel satisfying and mesmerizing to watch the yarn happen. I know, right? The very first interaction with spinning I ever had was when I was maybe 5 or 6 years old, and I was at a farmer's market, and one of the old ladies had brought her spinning wheel and was spinning, and she wasn't selling anything. She was just like chilling and spinning. And I was immediately drawn to her and very interested in asking many questions. I think I might have asked to try her wheel, although she didn't let me, which at the time I was very sad about, but in retrospect, I probably would not let a random 6-year-old use my wheel either, unless I knew that they were like not gonna break it on purpose. But even so, like that just totally, that was it for me. Once I saw that spinning wheel moving, that was it. historically, traditionally, spindle whorls were a common thing to embellish with carving, and there are still people doing traditional spinning, but most of the art wood carving is intended for display. Coast Salish and Northwest Coast. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's so awesome though. That people are still keeping up the tradition of the art. I've seen quite a few Coast Salish pieces. They're slightly, like it's slightly farther away from me than most other tribes. Most other like nearby tribes, I should say. But I've seen quite a bit of Coast Salish art, like blown away every single time by pretty much every piece of it. It's gorgeous. We could talk about it for a billion years, about the local fiber culture too. I mean, feel free. This is a spinning stream. If I remember correctly, and I may be about to make a fool of myself, but isn't dogsbane a pretty common spinning material in Coast Salish culture? I was looking into it a while ago. I can't remember if it's Coast Salish or if it's a different one in the area. Not anymore. I don't know enough about ecology to know if there are different preferences now. Hopefully, or I mean, not that it went extinct, it still exists, but like extinct in the area, I guess. You have this thing you can't really articulate where there's no strict boundary between art and handcraft. If you sew a coat for your child, you're also wanting to make it a nice looking coat. It's just a thing we do. Agreed, for sure. Like, I don't think I consider most of my pieces to be fully art or fully functional, except in very few cases. Like, they're definitely both to me as well. First scheme, very pretty. I should have counted it before I took it off the nitty-gritty, but for that now. Dogwood was more accessible than picking mountain goat / bighorn sheep wool off of bushes after the mountain goats leave. That makes sense. Yeah, I can imagine so. Easier materials these days to gather, for sure. Sorry, one of the strands, I guess I didn't tie into place or something. I'm kind of out of it today, in case you guys can't tell. Give me a sec to sort this out, and then we'll move on. I kind of do want to finish putting the rest of it on the nitty naughty, if you two don't mind watching me nitty naughty for a little longer. Just so that I have it done, you know? So I think I am going to do that. Unrelated, but that alpaca looks so soft. It is. It's softish. There's softer alpaca that I have had for sure, but there's also much rougher alpaca, and this stuff is pretty nice and soft. God, I can really see a difference in yarn size, though. This is definitely going to have to turn into something where the gauge does not matter very much. For sure. You're about to come into a chunk of alpaca fleece, and you're really psyched. It's black, sadly, so not as plying, but also black wool is such a nice color. Yeah, that's I have a like I feel like I would have a love-hate relationship with um, black wool were it not for the fact that I have way too much white wool and like less time to dye than I do to spin necessarily. And so for me, it's like anytime I actually get some black wool, I'm so psyched. 'Cause it's like finally a nice dark color I don't actually have to like make myself. Um, Although that said, I don't think I've ever actually spun truly black fiber, like that wasn't dyed. Um, I've spun some black Welsh Mountain, which was not black. It was like a very, very, very deep brown, which is a really pretty color as well, but like it was clearly not black. You really like colors that cheap come in and you like that they don't fade. Agreed, yeah. I only ever buy white fleece if I like know I want to dye it for real. It's like from an alpaca that you would call black, but it's grayish or brownish, dark. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, like I guess I should probably lower my expectations as well. The black fleece that one can find is probably not actually black, but just a very dark brown, which is not, I mean, you can only tell the difference if you're staring at it for several hours where you spin it, so not really a problem. You love black, but your friend who crochets advised you against starting crocheting, knitting something with dark colors. Yeah, yeah, that is true. Of Black Welsh Mountain that I spun ages ago, and I'm having so much trouble because despite the fact that I've been knitting and crocheting for like almost a decade now, definitely longer than I've been spinning, or no, longer than a decade, yeah. It's like it's impossible. I can't see my stitches, so I can't see what the hell I'm doing. So definitely don't recommend. Like actually working with black yarn is not for the faint of eyes or uh, the less experienced for sure. We just finished a project spinning some brown yarn and white yarn for a friend of yours to turn into colorwork socks, and you're really excited. Ooh, that's gonna be fun. I love doing fibers like swaps, collabs like that. That's always so fun. And especially like Fair Isle hand spun socks. I bet those are gonna be so cozy. Sounds really nice. Cream colored slash off white. Honestly, I feel like that goes better with like most colors anyway. Like a stark white does not actually go well with most other colors, but then a creamy, like oatmeal-y white goes a lot better, especially with brown. So that's probably like best possible scenario anyway. You don't knit or crochet, you just produce yarn and have nothing to do with it. But you have friends you do, so it's assembly line style. That is awesome. Honestly, I wish I had friends who were not as multidisciplined, because like all of my friends, including me, are super multidisciplined, and we all do pretty much the same stuff. And I kind of wish I could just like foist my my stuff off on them and be like, hey, now you have to finish it because I don't know how. But I don't have a good excuse because I do know how. I just don't want it sometimes. It's a really nice pairing, kind of chocolatey mid brown and then a oatmeal white. Yeah, that's really nice. Those are gonna be some beautiful socks for sure. You have a ball of red yarn you spun for your best friend. It's not very good, but it's friendship yarn. That's the best kind of yarn anyway. Some of my favorite yarn is yarn that my friends spun for me. And it's like, it's usually their early yarns too, because I have a habit of asking for my friend's scrap. You know, because I use my own scrap for scrap projects all the time, and none of my friends use their scrap. So they tend to give me their the scraps of their early skeins and stuff. Gosh, it's always like pride of place in my blanket squares. Like it's always my favorite little bit out of all the little bits for sure. It's very convenient to stop it from piling up. I'm sure I wouldn't know anything about not having yarn pile up, but it sounds nice. I have a huge duffel bag full of hand spun yarn right now that I have absolutely zero plans for, or I have plans for them, but not the technical expertise to do it, and no plans in the work to get me that technical expertise. So they're just sitting there. A skein number 2. This one's definitely smaller, but that's fine. I'll probably have to go through and individually count the yardage of each. It's not going to be tonight, though. I'll try and do it before next stream, though, so that I can update you guys. And probably post on Tumblr as well, once I've got it all washed and dried and counted. I mean, it's hard not to have takers for hand spun yarn. Like, especially, I don't know if you are, but especially if you're giving it away or trading it for like finished projects. Because once you work with hand spun yarn, it's suddenly like, oh wow, that mill spun stuff is kind of crap in comparison. And then if you don't spin it yourself, I imagine it's sort of like, you know, you got to find a way to get your next fix. I had the opposite experience, funnily enough, which was that I exclusively used commercial yarn right up until I finished my very first hand spun, which was so bad. And it took like a while of spinning to actually have any experience using hand spun. Be good enough to actually prefer it over my mill spun took like a good year or so. But at this point, like in most cases, I'm definitely going for the hand spun. The fiber piles up, so it's not foolproof, but at least the yarn has takers. Yeah. Impossible to stop the stash from growing somehow. But I mean, like, yeah, I have piles of fleece and piles of yarn. So at least you only have piles of one of those. That definitely sounds like it takes up a little less space. Although the pile, like the yarn takes up so much less space once it's spun, so you are storing the bigger stuff of the two. So it looks like one of these notably thicker than the other two, and the other two are pretty even. I mean, I don't know, it might all block out. There's no way to know. I'm kind of considering a blanket. I know I say this literally every single time that I'm kind of considering a blanket, but I'm kind of considering a blanket. Because, like, you don't, if you're making, like, a shawl, for example, especially a lace shawl, which is what I would want to do, if it suddenly gets thicker in the middle, then you stop being able to see the elements in the middle. So that's no good. And I think it's a little too lumpy to work for lace anyway. I don't know. Oh, right. I was going to do a cowl with it. That was what I had decided on. This should still work for a cowl. A hooded cowl. But I think it's way too cowl. Well, we'll see. Not my problem right now. It was a future me problem. I'm really glad I realized that you can count the yardage off the nitty noddy. Like, obviously you can. I should have known that from the get-go. But like, it took 2 or 3 years of winding my stuff up on nitty noddies to realize that like it's exactly the same process and exactly the same math. It's just not under tension. But like, that's literally the only difference. And in those 2 years, if I didn't, like, if I took it off before I remembered to count it, I just shrugged. I was like, well, guess I'll. Magic. Yeah. I think it would make a really nice cowl, but I didn't think it'd make this much yarn, and it has. It's made so much yarn. I guess a cowl is more of like a 4-ounce project than a 7.5-ounce project. Red dough is definitely rising. Just over there. I know my nitty noddy's a little bit in the way. But, aha! We're done. We're free of the tyranny of this alpaca. Fucking find them. Alright. I'm just tying some knots in it right now. Okay. Ooh. Wow. There we have it. Actually, I bet I can twist it into one big skein. Briefly. Hang on. Oh yeah, that is satisfying. It's such a huge skein. Get a close up. As you can see, it's not an even skein. As you can see, it's not an even skein. But it is a skein. Yeah. I'm excited to actually work out the yardage for sure. Okay, so one bread dough update. I distinctly remember when I put this in, that from the angle where I'm sitting, it wasn't reaching the like curve, the indent that you guys can barely see. It's this line up here. So it wasn't reaching that when I first set it down, and now it definitely is. So yay, definitely rising. I don't know why it wouldn't rise, but it is. So that's reassuring. So now, let's see, what are we at on stream time? We're at about an hour and 10 minutes in. which isn't bad. So here's the CVM. It's a cozy stream. Thank you. I'm glad you think so. I'm feeling pretty cozy myself. Here's the CVM bat. It is not well mixed at all. Like not even remotely. Let's see. I don't know if there's any way to really show the details, honestly. It's so vague to begin with. But yeah, not mixed well or carded open like at all. So I was using my hand cards. To prepare it so that I could spin it on spindles. And I do have some on the spindles already, but I can't really do that as a stream. And also my cat scratched the hell out of my thumb. I don't really think I could spin supported at the moment anyway. But for the sake of posterity, I shall show my spindles and some of the roll legs, just that you guys can see. There's the spindles. And like, yeah, it's totally spinnable and wonderful once it's in a roll lag form. But I do not have the easiest time making roll lags right now, and all of my roll lag making energy is going to the Clone Forest Shetland cross. So I think we're just, like, I'm gonna try and like hand prep as much as I can just by like pre-drafting. And then we're gonna try and spin it. And I think I'll just 2-ply it. Like do 1 ply that's all from the spindles and then 1 ply that's from the wheel. And then if they're different, it's fine. Because I don't have any plans for this anyway. I just need to get it out of my stash. So I wish I lived in a thatched cottage. Ugh. My window that's right by my bed is directly under a bus stop, and the bus comes about every 15 minutes without fail all night. And it's really loud announcements that I can hear very easily and that often wake me up. And it's like people's favorite spots to come have arguments. So I would love to live in a thatched cottage right now. All right, so I've prepped it a little. You can maybe see it's like a little bit more workable than the whole big thing. So we'll see if this is enough. Like, I don't care if it's messy. I'm fine with messy, especially because I know that the other ply is not going to be messy. But I don't want it to be like, you know, thick and thin necessarily. But I don't want it to be like, you know, thick and thin necessarily. That's not what I'm going for. And I also don't want it to be just miserable spin. So if this doesn't work, we'll have to find something else to pivot to. Or I might have to go bring out my hand cards and just do a little bit or something. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. It's not a house, it's a big apartment building. But yeah, what a terrible place to put somebody's window, I think. I'm sure that like I must be getting the worst of it because I am directly bus stop and nobody else is. So hopefully at least my neighbors have some peace, but I sure don't. Even with like the windows closed and everything, like people will just sit there having, you know, drunk conversations at 3 a.m. and I can hear every single word crystal clear, which is not really every single word crystal clear, which is is not really what I'm going for. But, you know, it's a lot better than the last place I lived. Like, even though my rent here is about twice as expensive, if I could pick between here and the last place I lived, I would totally pick here again. So I should complain a little less, maybe. I'm kind of thinking, because I don't think this was actually half. I think this is like 2/3 of it. So I think I can get away with spinning it pretty thick comparatively, because the stuff on my supported spindles is pretty thin. Oh, I need to move the whorls, don't I? And if it's thick, then it should be a little bit less terrible. So we'll see. Oh, problems. Already problems. Very thick and thin. See, on the other hand, another viewpoint to consider. Not that one. That's my cat crinkling. Again. Chuck. Terrible. Another viewpoint to consider is that I have way too much fiber, and I don't even know what I'm doing with this anyway. So who cares if it's super messy? Which is a compelling argument to me. So I might just like get her done. That might have to be enough. Chuck, what are you doing over there besides looking really suspicious? Hey. She always chooses streams to act up because she's up. Hi. Complaining is one of the little joys in life. So true. Where would I be without my best friend complaining? I guess I should let Chuck complain a little more often too. Sorry, important spinning pause to pet the cat. Hey, you might be thinking like, what if she's hungry? She's not hungry. She had dinner. She's completely fine. All of her needs are totally cared for. There's nothing to whine about at all right now, other than whatever it is that she is whining about. It's mine anyway. That's true. It is mine. It's a really good point. Like it's my stuff. I have the right to mess it up if I want to mess it up. The perfectionism just like always tries to take over when I'm making things. And like I do usually beat it down with a stick, but I kind of like forget that perfection doesn't even need to be it in the first place. Like I could, with some therapy, I could have a different initial reaction. Too many people are afraid to say, actually, I can't tell what that says. Hang on. I see. You support my colleagues' contributions. Too many people are afraid to say "wow" these days. Chuck will say "wow" all day. And "row" as well is another important thing. You respect her contributions to the field. They're vital, obviously. I don't know. This could be worse. It could be better. I never truly know. Blocked. So, I mean, That's true. Nobody knows if it's blocked, but still. No, I know you were talking about my cat. It's good because it exists. That is a good mantra. Like, that's a fair point. Definitely gonna have to keep that in mind about my bread. Because, like, a lot of bread that is not very good recently in terms of meeting my bread standards, in terms of meeting my bread standards, because I'm trying out new same old that I know how to make well already. And like they're all edible, and they're even all pretty good, but they're not perfect. But they are good because they exist. That's a good point. I was thinking I'd spin this chunky, and it's I think it's actually turning out even thinner than the stuff on my supported spindles. Oh boy. Chuck, what are your plans? Do tell. We'd all love to know what your plans are, Chuck. No, you don't need to get on the loom. Nothing but disaster striking if you do that. Thank you. I was supposed to reconnect the apron bar to my loom ages ago, but I've had to keep it out here until I actually need it because, like, when she's trying to climb on the loom and I'm sitting here spinning, that's the only thing that will reach her and like gently poke her off. Always. This guy. Is my bread good though? I mean, I think that depends on what you're looking for in a bread. Like, because I don't know, I don't consider those like white artisanal like French loaves, for example. I'm not a fan of those. If that's how my bake turned out, I would be kind of disappointed in myself. Not that it doesn't take a lot of skill to achieve a good like white French loaf. It's just not what I want from bread. What I want from bread is nuts and seeds in it. Like that's my idea of a good bread. And it is that. It's just that like I'm still figuring out how to make a good sourdough whole grain bread that isn't like stodgy and wet and slightly sticky, which are all things that are remedied by toasting it. And then, you know, it tastes fine. Like, I mean, it tastes pretty damn good, actually. And the texture's fine once it's toasted. But nonetheless, I just feel like I could do better. And I feel slightly ashamed, like, posting pictures of it, which is why I haven't. Because it's not up to my standards. Because, I mean, I've been baking bread since I was a kid. It's just most of it has been yeasted, like commercial yeast bread, not sourdough bread. Wheat sourdough is a whole different beast than whole wheat yeasted, like commercial yeasted, or than white sourdough. It's very different techniques and measurements to get it right. So. If the bread is tasty to eat, then win. Yeah, pretty much. That's true. That is true. And yet, I don't know. My last loaf was a lot closer to what I've been looking for. The main thing is like I want it to rise enough that it actually fills my loaf tin to make some good sandwich bread. Like, because it's kind of inconveniently sized and shaped at the moment because it's not achieving the full rise. So that definitely improvements could be made. But in terms of taste, actually, I don't know if improvements could be made. It tastes pretty damn good for what it is. Yeah. And this one is going to be such a mess. I bet it'll be good for felting. Or like maybe if I need a really textured yarn. I don't know. I can't think of a time when I've needed a textured yarn. But if I did, this might work. It is like, it's really soft. It's really beautifully soft, but it's also quite dusty. And I think it's got some lanolin that needs coming out, but I didn't want to wash it as a bat, and that's how it came. So, and then it's also definitely got some VM. Could make a really nice like little neck warmer maybe, if it ends up like still being really nice and soft once it's washed and applied and everything. And if I can get all the VM poking my neck. Where you grew up, you get these flat, very white, almost bowy breads, and you miss them. You considered learning to bake them, which may or may not happen. You should always give it a try. That sounds pretty good. I mean, bao are so good. I made a sourdough discard bao the other day, and they were fucking delicious. I'm sure it's like not super close to traditional bao, but I followed a recipe that said it was bao, so I don't know. I tried. Spinning, and honestly, I don't know if like there's not enough grease to call it spinning in the grease. It's more just like, I don't want to rag on them because, you know, somebody put effort into making this, but since I'm not saying the name of the farm, and I don't even remember where I got it from, they didn't wash it well at all. Like, this is terribly washed wool. I say this as somebody who's washed a lot of wool and who has very particular opinions about how wool should be washed. And this is horribly, terribly washed wool. If they hadn't washed it at all, it might almost be easier to spin. But as it is, some spots are like pretty greaseless, and other spots are super, super, super greasy. And that's because they must not have applied soap evenly. And it's kind of driving, which is why I want to get this over with. Like, just get it spun and done, you know, and then I can enjoy it as an actual yarn and not as a spinning experience. Bao is so good. Sourdough. It was sourdough. That's accurate. I think the one thing that might tempt me away from my whole wheat thing is I really, really love ciabatta. There was this bakery where I grew up. Well, one of the places I grew up. That was right down the corner from my house. And they sold this incredible ciabatta. And I've never found anywhere that like sells comparable ciabatta. It's difficult to find ciabatta in this part of the country anyway. But I've never found anywhere that sells comparable ciabatta, and I miss it so bad. It's so delicious. So I might have to try that. But that's not sourdough either, really. I really like doing sourdough because it feels like having a pet. But I already have a pet though. And she's also very demanding. Ciabatta, yeah. So hard to go wrong with ciabatta. But I think the problem that I'm going to run into is that their ciabatta is not, like, it was pretty different from a lot of the other stuff on the market. And, you know, keep in mind, I'm American, so this is probably not like actual authentic ciabatta or anything close to it. But I don't even know where I'd find a recipe and well enough to like really recreate. So my options are going back to my horrible hometown, which I physically can't get to anymore anyway, or experimenting until I finally put like a piece of bread in my mouth and I'm like, this is what I've been trying to make for years, which I might do. Oops. We'll see. Definitely pre-drafting this is helping. It's helping it be less unruly and thick and thinny. And it also means that most of the VM ends up on the floor and not on my pants, which is preferable because these are pajama pants. A good way to get this on camera, that if I get the angle right for the camera, then I totally lack the control to action. So here's what it is. I just open up my drink real quick. Okay, I'm good. Not an alcoholic beverage this time, just sparkling water. Another thing I could do is spin a third really even ply from something else. Even ply from something else. And then do like a 3-ply, and that might help. Because like the stuff that I have on my supported spindles is definitely more even than what I've currently got, but it's not actually even because the prep is quite poor. So I don't know. We'll have to see. I don't know what I would pair this with to make it interesting. I guess I probably can find more mousy brown somewhere. But still. No. It looks like we're at about an hour and a half on the stream. I'm probably gonna call it, like I definitely want to call it before 2 hours this time because streams this week, which I do, then I probably shouldn't actually like try and push myself to the limit or get close to it even. So probably like another 15 minutes of spinning. And in the meantime, like off camera, I'm gonna try and finish up spinning the stuff that's on my supported spindles so that when I'm done with this, we should just be ready to go. And the good thing about this is I think it will only take up one bobbin. which means I can, like, on any morning spins or spins where the lighting is better, I can do them. So we don't have to spin this one until it's done. Probably gonna switch off a little bit. I went outside today to do a bit more carding outside because, like, whenever the weather looks like it's nice, that's typically what I do. Go outside and do some carding in an alleyway nearby. But oh my god, these people are having this horrible party, horribly loud party in their backyard, which was attached to the alley that I was in. Which, I mean, you know, it's their house, it's well within their rights, but yeah, totally wrong vibe. So I only did a tiny bit of carding. I think I still have, like, I don't know, it's hard to tell because I haven't weighed any of it. And I don't quite remember how much I had to begin with, but I think I've carded approximately a quarter of that fleece. A quarter to a third is my guess. So, like, we're getting there, but the other thing is, yes. So, like, we're getting there, but the other thing is quite a lot of it is undyed still. Like, maybe another third. I'm definitely not spinning undyed yarn. That's just boring. So, or like, you know, colorless yarn. Too boring for me. So I might actually need to, like, find some dye materials or use up my secret stash of materials before we can finish up the other one. We'll see. You just got yourself on medication, which means you should probably go to bed. Oh, yeah, probably. I'm sure you won't miss much for the end of the stream, so I hope you have a good night. And also, I should be streaming in the morning, either tomorrow morning or maybe Monday morning, but hopefully tomorrow morning. So maybe it'll be a more favorable time for you next time. I think I already told you that, honestly. My memory right now, not the best, but yeah. Have a good night. And I don't know, dream about sheep maybe? Counting sheep, shearing sheep. You know, and you can dye just a sheep, and then it will produce that color of wool forever until you dye it again, which is definitely not something that annoys me a disproportionate amount as a spinner. But, like, imagine it if you could do that in real life. It'd be so funny. Like, you know, they spray paint those little markers on sheep to vaccinate it or something a lot of the time, and then sometimes it's also to show if they've been bred. But, like, imagine, you know, you do that on your sheep and then it's just got, like, a pink rump wool forever. That'd be really funny. Shearing sheep, processing wool. Yeah. Good night. Have a good night. It used to be when I was trying to fall asleep. Mostly what I would do is, like, imagine that I was alone on an island and then go through the hyper involved steps of, like, building a house out of mud and adobe and that sort of stuff. Like, I don't know, because it'd be engaging, but it wouldn't lead me down thought rabbit holes, right? So I found that to be pretty effective. And then when I became too physically disabled for that to really be an effective daydream and not just like kind of depressing, now I can't think of anything. I can never think of anything to fall asleep. But I saw a comment on some video the other day, and it sounded he imagined that they were one fish in a shoal of fish, just thinking fish thoughts with their buddies. And I was like, man, that sounds really weird to think about. I should try that. So I might have to try that one of these days. I bet being a fish in a shoal of fish like would be really relaxing in real life until you get eaten. But other than that, all right. I'm gonna pause it there on the spinning, and then I'll do just a little bit more, fiber. I don't know, prep, I guess, while we wind down. Because why not? Also, because I know I'm gonna reflexively end up sweeping all of this as soon as I'm done, just because it's gonna annoy me so much otherwise. So might as well get as much done or between sweeping sessions as I can. If I could like turn a little, so you guys can see a little bit better. Maybe that's better. It's pretty hard to pre-draft with this stuff because so much of it is like just fully in lock formation. And so it just snaps when you try and pre-draft it, like refuses to draft any. But it does kind of work. And I tried initially just spinning it straight off the bat, and like I didn't get anywhere with that. So one. I have no idea if this is audible or not. I suspect not. But one thing I really love about pre-drafting is the noise. I don't know. Such a nice noise. Okay. So I've got these guys pre-drafted to spin for next time. And for comparison, the very lumpy starting bit. And we finished up this monster of a skein, which I will be counting the yardage of and washing tonight, hopefully. Yeah, and look at this. My bread is totally rising enough to tell. Like, it's slow, but I think it's mostly slow because I was using a sort of what's the word? Sleepy starter. It wasn't in the fridge. Not like a cold, dormant starter, but it was not at its peak for sure. So yeah, sleepy starter. Still doing better than I thought. You like the caramelly color? That's good. I do too. It's not a color that I would wear necessarily. Unless you're talking about the this. To be honest, neither is a color I'd wear. They're pretty similar colors. I'm more of a like dark neutrals kind of guy. Just in terms of what I actually wear. But I can definitely appreciate a good, I don't know, mousy brown. It's nice. All right. Thanks for sticking around. And I hope you enjoyed the stream. That is the problem with it, yeah. Like, not a lot of people wear light brown. Yeah, with it, yeah. Like, not a lot of people wear light brown. Yeah. Well, I could probably go off on tangents for 1,000,000 years, but instead, I'll let you sleep, let everybody sleep, let myself sleep. Eventually, much more likely let my cat sleep on top of me, as she usually does, despite my protestations. She looks very uncowed right now. All right, you guys all have a good night. Yeah, good luck catching the sheep. All right, have a good one.